I'm Coach Tarek.
And I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Paul.
We are your movement experts, and we are here to educate health and fitness professionals with the tools to create real change for and within the industry.
Welcome back to Purpose-Driven Movement. We're so glad you could join us. We have Tarek with me. How are you, Tarek?
Yeah, good, Ness. As always, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. I am really interested and keen to hear about what your chat is today. And you were chatting with our other co-host, Paul. What was on the agenda?
We had a good yarn. Paul and I really philosophized on really his approach to mentoring and some of his outlook, kind of carrying on from our first episode that we all three of us did. But Paul offered up a really, really cool model, a three-tiered approach in terms of how someone that he mentors as a coach kind of earns the right to then, go up to the next levels. Because in our industry, as noted in our first episode, there's really nothing of mentoring. And he's got a really, really savvy system that I think those who are aspiring mentors can really look at and maybe model out.
How awesome. I am really keen to hear this. Let's get going with today's episode.
Welcome to the Purpose-Driven Movement Podcast. I've got a very special guest today, Paul Meldrum, who is also the co-host of the PDM podcast. Really great to have you and me be able to interview you today, Paul.
Great to be on the other side of the microphone today.
Yeah, good on you, mate. And we're definitely thrilled to dive into this particular topic called the value of client-centered coaching. So, Paul, tell us a little bit more about what that means.
Coaching models that we use in the fitness industry, very much about what we can tell the client to do. And we see the same thing across multiple industries. So you go to the doctor, they don't ask for your input, they tell you what to do. You go see your chiropractor or whoever it is, they tell you what's wrong. And in traditional coaching, so we're looking at sports and we're looking at team activities, the coach generally tells the players what to do and they have no input on the discussion, right? And that's what would be called coach-centered coaching. So the coach is like the master of his domain or her domain, the arbiter of all knowledge. And the unfortunate reality is when we're in the personal training realm, when we're working with real life clients, so real people who have jobs, who have responsibilities and have a lot more going on, simply telling them what to do and using facts to back that up isn't enough to facilitate change. Really, really simple when we start to think about it and break it down. When you're an adult, like we'll use you for an example, Tarek, how much do you like to be told what to do all the time?
Well, goodness, even as a kid, I was, in all seriousness, I think it depends on how it's delivered. And if it is autocratic and it's not bi-directional, then I think I have an issue with it. Yeah. If it's just one way.
Yeah. So a lot of coaching is like push-ups, do it now, take this, you've got insulin resistance, whatever it is, right? Client-centered coaching brings the actual client and makes them involved in the decision-making process. What this does, it breaks down the barriers between the coach and the client. It takes the coach off their pedestal and brings them down onto the same level of the client. So it actually becomes a true and honest exchange of what's going on, and the client will feel valued in that situation. And it really taps into one of the most important things that we can remember in coaching. Who knows more about the client? The coach or the client? The client always knows more about their life. They know what other stresses they have going on. They know what they're truly capable of, and they know what logistically is feasible for them. So a lot of the time when a coach is working with a client, and I specialize in working with online coaches, right? And online coaches, the worst at this, not picking on them totally, but they're very good at this. They'll give the client a training program that's quite advanced, quite tricky, with a whole bunch of different instructions to do. They'll give them some complicated macro breakdown to follow every single day to make sure that they've hit their targets. They'll give them a supplement plan and they'll give them a whole bunch of different check-ins to do each week that the client may or may not feel comfortable with. In my model of client-centered coaching, what we do is we actually start looking at what the client is doing first and foremost, and then looking at using the client's input and a discussion-based approach to help them find the next step that they want to do to get better. So what this does, it does a couple of things. It develops the client's intrinsic motivation because they came up with the change. If they've got intrinsic motivation, do we need to spend as much time, pushing them and motivating them? No, we don't. They're going to do it themselves. Starts building up some autonomy. So they actually get the skill set, do things themselves, and they feel confident in themselves. And then it also starts to give them a sense of mastery. So they start to master what they're doing with their physique, their nutrition, their training, etc. So this kind of hits all the pillars of motivation. And that's written about by Daniel Pink in his book, To Sell is Human. So drive. By using client-centered coaching, we can tap into all these innate human needs and get a much better outcome for our clients.
And can you tell me a little bit, you mostly are doing, if not all of your coaching is online. How does behavioral change differ from online to in-person based coaching?
Oh, that is the question, isn't it? I've been coaching online coaches now independently of Fitwell and my other stuff for the last 2 years. And it's a huge thing that they all struggle with. And a lot of them always go that, it was so much easier when I was in the gym, getting people to change. And to an extent, it always will be, because you're there in front of a person. You can have that energetic exchange. You can have that bonding in that moment, and the communication is so much more organic. By doing it online and using client-centered coaching, it really needs to be very smart, well thought out process of getting the client's questions for the things that they need to do. You can do it via text, but you can normally do it via email, automated check-ins using things like Google Forms. A series of questions like start, stop, and continue. So what do you need to start doing this week to get towards your goals? What do you need to stop that's stopping you from moving towards your goals? And what do you need to continue that has served you well this week? Is a really good questioning framework to go through that. Another one is I get the clients to list out their wins for the week, their struggles for the week, and then what habits and behaviors they've done well and what they have struggled a little bit with. With online coaching, once you kind of identified that, our main thing you can do with online coaching is provide clients digital resources that will help them solve these problems, give them the skill sets to solve these problems. So a lot of my time now is spent, say I talk to a client, they have an issue with self-compassion. I'll create a product for that to send out to them to give them the skills to start doing that, and then give them the option to touch base with me over a Zoom call or something like that, so we can discuss it and go over those problems that they have and provide an individualized solution. So the first step is to try and automate it and digitize it as much as you can and give probing questions that encourage the client to think about it, to move forward, and to make some decisions for yourself. And our job is just to go, yep, that's a great decision, or do you think that's going to work out? Because you may have to pull people back every now and then. And then to also give them some kind of reference to go back to, and then be there for them if they need your help a little bit further. And from what I found in my work, I've been working with about 80 online clients at the moment. I find that most of them are pretty damn good at just going through the check-ins and facilitating that process, because the questions are the right ones. And I normally have to speak to 2 to 3 people a week at most to further facilitate their growth. So if you do it in the right system, it kind of trickles down and it becomes actually not too much actual person-to-person work. It's more creating resources for your clients, which is a really good trade-off of time for money, because once you've created it, then you've created it. It's there for everyone.
Yeah, sounds excellent. From what I hear here, just to summarize, your strategies are somewhat bundled here. Questioning frameworks, you alluded to earlier, some self-reflective activities. And this is for your coaches, is that correct? Who then pass on to their clients, yeah?
Oh, I do it with my clients.
Yeah, okay. That's another matter we'll get into. Easy to use implementations of templates.
Yeah, I can't get it put together with someone in 30 minutes. It's not a good idea. Try and keep everything I use really, really simple. I actually base, this is a little bit of an interesting segue. I base most of my ideas on what systems I'm going to use and all that kind of stuff on a book called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. Have you heard that book?
No, tell us a little bit about that.
So there's it's a little crude, but we'll go into it. It's based around the premise that entrepreneurs, when you're starting up a business, it's very similar to when you go to a public restroom, you go to the bathroom, you do a number 2, and you don't check for toilet paper. Because normally when there's a whole bunch of toilet paper there, you don't have to think about it, right? But you might find 2 or 3 squares. And God damn it, you're going to make it work with those 2 to 3 squares. It basically, the analogy it's trying to paint is you can get a lot done with very little resources and investing very little expenditure into the system. And it can be quite simple. So by using those ideas, whenever I come up with something for my clients, I need to make sure it can be implemented cheaply, because they can be implemented at scale and it can be taught to other trainers who are coming into the field who may not have the financial resources that I may have. Like I can easily pay in the forward for another CRM tool or something like that. They're going to be stuck on Google Sheets and Google Forms, so it's all free, right? Because they don't have those client numbers yet. It also needs to be very simple to put together and actually implement, because if it takes me a long time to put something together, it means that, that trade-off of time for money isn't really paying off. If it takes me 4 hours to get a resource for the client, I'm only going to be able to put out 1 or 2 things a week because of time requires and other stuff versus taking 20 minutes so I can put out 10 pieces a week. So I always want to keep things simplicity, speed, efficiency, and cost efficiency.
Yeah, because the thing is, people are sort of so-called time poor, right? Which is more of a factor of energy and how one is organized. And what you're saying is that in order to kind of facilitate that change through that motivation that you alluded to earlier, which relates to the self-determination theory, you need to be that client-centered approach.
We're going to interrupt this podcast with a short message from our sponsor, Exercise to Experience. In collaboration with FTI, we have just launched our brand new Group Fitness Specialist Immersive course. We have brand new dates coming along where we can take your group instructing to a brand new level. Clients all over the industry are searching for meaningful group exercise experiences. They want the next step. They want to be immersed. They want to have an amazing experience time and time again. So find out how you can deliver amazing exercise experiences throughout your entire career, regardless of what you teach. Have a look at the show notes, click the link, we'll take you there. We want to help you grow as a group exercise instructor so that you're always going to have full classes and lots of member retention.
Can you talk about any tactics or strategies that might help the coach get into the frame of mind? Because it is let's call it a limitation of one's perspective, a coach's perspective. So it starts with oneself, right, before they can then alter or change another. So talk about any strategies or tactics that facilitate a client-centered approach.
I can give you a philosophical construct to work with. Okay, so kind of like an overall arching set of principles that can be run. And then a real practical strategy that can be used both in person and online. Good, help me out. It's a good deck. The first one, from an overall philosophical construct of how I work with clients, I break clients down to 3 levels. It's really advanced naming tech tools, level 1, level 2, level 3. I don't tell clients what level they're at because some people are like, I need to be a level 3. Level 3 clients are a pain in the butt. Basically, level 1 clients are going to be beginners. They don't know what they don't know. They're the kind of clients who be like, oh, if I have too much protein, is it bad? Is creatine a steroid? I heard squats will make my knees explode. They are the ones that come to us with all the cliched questions that trainers hate because they're uneducated in this field yet. A lot of trainers look down on them, but realistically, they're the people who can afford our services because they've invested time, energy, and effort into having well-paying careers in the field. So we shouldn't look down on them. I hate it when trainers go on social media and say, oh, another client asked me for toning. Like, who cares? We say stupid stuff all the time about a number of things. So never talk down to level 1 clients because they're going to be your bread and butter for most of your career. A level 2 client is someone who is fitness and eating well and everything around that construct has become part of their life. So, they go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week pretty consistently. They know how to eat well. It's like a habit for them. If they don't go to the gym, they miss out. They feel like they missed out on something. That's the level I like all my clients to be. Or I like them starting at level 1 and get them to level 2. Because from a financial standpoint, so for all trainers listening, if you can get your clients to a point where they're not struggling anymore, to the point where it's a habit for them, paying you is also a habit. Working with a trainer becomes a habit for them so they don't blink at the expense coming out their bank account every week. It's just cool. It's what it is. My longest lasting client is now 19 years. So it's a good place to be. Long time, a little bit too long. And then finally is a level 3 client. A level 3 client is someone who it's kind of like fitness is like one of the top 3 priorities in their life. So it would be someone who wants to compete in a sport, whether it's strength sport, athletic sport, or physique sport. So they want to get on stage or they act like me and take their shirt off at every opportunity for a photo shoot. Thanks, David Welch, for that. They might want to compete in powerlifting. It's just super, super important to them. And now they're the kind of client who will come to you and they'll be like, rather than asking a question about nutrition, they'll be like, here's my spreadsheet of my macros for the last 6 months. What do you think about tribulus? Will it improve my testosterone levels? Is my scapula slightly protracted or retracted on this exercise? They're very in the weeds about it. They're very passionate. And I break that down, the level 3, just to 2 more. It's the level 3s that execute and the level 3s that talk about it. And the level 3s that execute, they look amazing. You just tell them what to do and they're good. The level 3s who talk about it argue with you all day long because they've got every other viewpoint in their head. So when you construct your clients into that kind of overall framework and principles, you can pretty quickly recognize that the principles giving someone macros or really advanced training program to a level 1 client is a bad idea. Yet a level 3 client going up to them and saying, now I need to make sure that you eat protein at every meal and get 7 hours of sleep a night. They're already doing that. They're not going to get any value from that coaching. So when I look at that, you can kind of ascertain pretty quickly that a level 1 client needs some guidance, but needs the choice there so they feel comfortable with the changes. The level 2 client has a fair amount of information and knowledge already, so they can make choices that are good for themselves already. So we don't have to facilitate that as much by giving them info. We just need to validate their choices when they're right. And then the level 3 client is we can then switch our hats from that client-centered approach into that coach-centered approach. Because if say I'm working with a physique prep client, during their mass phases, I give them a fair bit of flexibility and stuff like that. But if they're on the prep and particularly the final 6 weeks towards a shoot or a stage show, I don't let them think. I don't give them choices because their success is based on hopefully my expertise and their execution of it. They might come up with some crazy idea that, you know what, I'm going to do keto for the last 2 weeks before my shoot, which would be stupid because it would destroy their physique and their intestines and a whole bunch of other stuff. But for the advanced goals, it's like, yes, I'm the coach. I tell you what to do. That's what you do. But 90%, 95% of your clients are going to be client-centered. So now we've kind of got that as an overall philosophy of how we work with people and how we can categorize people. We need an actual operational framework. And I absolutely love frameworks for conversation because it allows you to steer in the direction. It allows you to keep the boat going where you want it to go, but it also gives you a little bit of freedom once you understand the framework. So when I'm getting a training talk with clients to facilitate a client-centered approach, I use what I call the SICK protocol. It's fully SICK. My wife actually taught me it in the management framework. And as soon as she taught it to me, I was like, that's so good for clients. And she's like, no, you're wrong. And then I did it and she's like, wow, that's actually really cool. So what it stands for is specific, impact, change, or continue. So it's such a good protocol and framework for discussing things that a client is doing. So identifying what the problem is, what their roadblock is or their limiting factor, helping them identify to you and tell you how it's holding them back and how it's impacting their life. So you're not the coach going, Tarek, I can't believe you're having donuts every night. Don't you know that's bad for your insulin and you'll sleep bad and you get trans fats and it'll cause a heart attack? It's much more powerful the client realizes. And then change or continue gives the option to either change something about it or continue on that pathway because they're not ready to change in that aspect of their life. So I'll run that down. Specific might be client comes in with their food journal because we're allowed to coach nutrition within the framework of food journals. We're not prescribing macros or specific diet plans, but we can look at what a client's eating and make sure that we can always say they can do better following dietary guidelines, for example. So I'll use a real life client example here, okay? You're the client, Tarek. I'm going to give you the name to protect the innocent here or protect the guilty. I noticed that every day for breakfast, you're having Doritos. There's a real story. A packet of Doritos every day. Corn chips are a vegetable, right? Can you tell me about that? So the first part of the specific is just to really get clarity on the issue, clarity on what the client's doing. And we're focusing on one specific thing they're doing because let's be honest, if a client's eating corn chips for breakfast, you could probably find 20 other things wrong in their diet, right? Not optimal. So Tarek, you tell me about, you eat corn chips every day for breakfast. Of course you love them. Okay, fine, fantastic. And you've got your husband works at Frito-Lay or something like that where they can get free corn chips. So the next part is, okay, cool. How's that impacting on your ability to lose weight? Now, generally the client will say, oh, well, I haven't lost weight in weeks. Okay, cool. And so you ask all the questions that you can about how that dietary decision, training decision, lifestyle decision, mindset decision, whatever it is, impacts that client. So how's that impacting your sleep? Oh, well, I'm really hungry at night, so I binge eat and then I can't sleep because I got a stomach ache. Cool. How's your digestion going? Oh, terrible. I've got diarrhea every day about 10 o'clock. How's your training drive? Oh, I don't really make it to the gym because, I've just had diarrhea. You can get a ton of different questions there where the client will basically tell you every single way how their behavior is destroying their life or destroying their ability, their capacity to get results. And what I love about it is I'm not telling the client that they suck just to keep it really simple. I'm not telling the client that Doritos are bad because they're full of, crappy fatty fats, lots of preservatives. You got lots of things in them that aren't really health promoting, right? They're delicious, but they're not exactly health promoting. The client then has that realization. And I'm sure you recognize this. When you've you can have someone telling you that you're the problem and you're doing something wrong till the cows come home. But as soon as you have that moment of realization where, oh, damn it, it's my fault, it hits you in the chest like a ton of bricks, right? It's like that's the kind of reaction everyone has. They go, because they realize it's you. So when it facilitates the client having a moment of realization, which is always more powerful than being told they suck. Everyone remembers being in school and teachers calling them idiots or they'll never amount to anything, or my favorite, could be more if they applied themselves to all the stand reports. It never works. Like no student ever applied themselves more because they saw they suffered a report card.
That's right. So this is really a non-judgmental approach where you're facilitating positive responses that are churned from questions. So you're starting quite global and then you're going quite specific, but keeping it to that topic and keeping them honest as well in that frame of an honest conversation, which actually then, as you said, it hits the person because all of a sudden they're going, oh, that question actually hits home as truth to me, for example.
You become a facilitator of their growth rather than the driver of performance. Facilitator growth has a place 90% of the time. Driver of performance is like 5 to 10%. So if I'm working with my Olympic athletes, I'm a driver most of the time. But occasionally I need to pull back and be a facilitator. Gel pop, facilitator, unless they're like doing something really ridiculous that I have to drive. The final step is change or continue. And that's the simplest step because, and there's one more framework that goes into, which I'll dive in quickly because I like a framework, follow frameworks, and then you get a resolution. It's, do you want to change this or continue the same behavior? So most people, like 98% of the time, they've always said yes, they want to change that behavior. I don't tell them how to change. I let them pick something better. Better is always a scale, right? Like we might say the ultimate breakfast is source of lean protein, bunch of plant food, and some high quality carbohydrates and some high quality fats. For this person, going from Doritos to Fruit Loops is probably a better option because there's some protein milk, right? And then they can move to Wheat Bix to oats to eggs and toast. Like there's a scale that they can go through. But I want them to pick the level that they're comfortable at. So when they succeed at that, and what does success create? Success always creates more success. It creates a follow-on effect like a snowball. They continue. If someone says they want to stick to it and continue to that pattern, it's generally a sign that you've picked up on something that offers them unseen benefits. So a very hidden, well, not so hidden addiction. So a very simple one is cigarettes. Yeah, I may notice in yours, Tarek, but I may notice in the food gel someone's smoking like 25 cigarettes a day. And I can go through the whole process. How's that infecting your cardio? I can't walk upstairs without getting puffed. How's it longevity going? Oh, I'm probably going to die. Those are things that we know that cigarettes do harmful. Do you want to change or continue? I want to stick to it. And that's because they're ready to change something else in their life. They may have started training. They may have started dieting. They may have made a whole bunch of changes, but the cigarettes are still giving them benefits, which may be stress release. It could be routine, habit, whatever it is. So as coaches, as part of this client-centered coaching model, we need to be aware that there's stages of change that every client goes through, but you don't go through the stages of change to every single aspect of training, nutrition, health, mindset, etc. at the same time. You may, if someone's got a terrible diet, they've never trained before, a crappy mindset, like really self-defeating, fixed mindset, and terrible being accountable to anyone. If they start going to the gym 3-4 times a week, guess what? That's a massive win. They're in a good stage of change there. The other stuff will come along later, hopefully, if we do good client-centered coaching. So we need to be aware that we're not changing everything day one. And the last part of that framework is when they say they want to change, our job is just to make sure that it's a change they can do. It's as simple as that. This is a terrible example. Let's say you're drinking 24 beers a night. It's pretty impressive effort. And then we point out all the problems that causes you. And you realize that, oh, damn it, I'm drinking too much alcohol. And then you say to me, you know what, I'm going to go cold turkey. I'm probably going to say, are you sure that you can do that? That's a huge shift for someone. And our job would be to bring that back to a level where the client 100% knows that they can achieve that goal. So if I'm going over 24 beers to 18, very, very achievable. You'll still be pretty drunk, but very, very achievable for that person. And guess what? Next day, guess how many they drink? They drink 12. Then they drink 6 because they've got that success a lot quicker. I've used that protocol to get, I think this year actually, I've gotten about 14 people off smoking weed every day from following that protocol.
You discussed the micro changes, and the idea that behavioral change is gradual. And I think the coupling with autonomy is quite magnificent. And as as we know in science, it's not a week, a month, potentially even 3 months for change to really it can take shape, but to actually be really in the fabric of oneself, it's potentially many months, if not some years in some instances. So this approach is terrific. And it goes from compliance to engagement. Yeah, the whole idea is to move at a level 1, level 2. It's quite interesting. But at a level 3, if you're coaching clients or athletes, man, there's a competition, right? So the coach, take center stage. So tell me a little bit more about going back to the stage or level 1 clients. I want to clarify this. Are these clients who are potentially short-term in their thinking around results, whether it be I want to tone up for a wedding, I want to, along that superficiality, because as you, in level 2, it seems to be a lifestyle thing where you can then start to delve deeper. So tell me a little bit more. Have you seen clients shift from a level 1 to level 2, or is it simply that's where they stay?
My main thing is shifting clients from level 1 to level 2. So it's always, because my goal for every client that comes seeing me, if I make a sale from my personal training, online training, coaching business, I record it as a 1-year sale as a minimum. I'm like, that's a client lifetime value. I don't know my client lifetime value because I got like some 15, 18, 16-year clients that skew it a little bit. I kind of have an educational program in place and a series of landmarks that someone goes through as they become a level 1 all the way to a level 2 to maybe a level 3. So that's something that I work a lot with trainers for, and it's something that you can actually individualize to your niche or to your avatar. So if you, like, I got one student who does an amazing program coaching dads, and he goes through level 1 dad, level 2 dad, level 3 dad, like to super dad, right? It's a whole bunch of behaviors and habits that they go to. It's kind of like a graduation ceremony. So for a level 1 client, like if they start going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, right? It becomes a habit. They get notified of that. Like I say, hey, Dan, I've noticed that you've gone to the gym 3 times a week for the last 4 weeks. You're doing unreal. You're getting ready for the next level. And just that sentence alone, you're getting ready for the next level, inspires something in people. Because they go, what next level? There's another level. I think intrinsically, most humans are after growth of some sort. It's quite often the coach needs to facilitate that for people. So we can provide that for them. I provide a system for people to go through that growth process. So if I found a client who started off eating crap all the time and now they're eating a really good diet, they've never trained, they've gone there. My goal as a coach is to reward that along the way, to point out these changes to the clients, because a lot of people, yes, you're correct. They are looking for a fast win because they want to get in shape for a wedding or a holiday or whatever it is. But we both know as pretty well-established fitness professionals that fast wins are also fast loss wins. You gain something quickly without reward, like you starve yourself for 4 weeks and take a whole bunch of steroids and lose a whole bunch of fat, like some crazy stuff. You'll be really sick after that. You pay a price. So if you build it up over long-term habits and real identity change, that becomes who you are for the rest of your life.
Rewarding effort, as well.
My actual assistant goes through my online clients 3 times a week, and she notifies how many times each one logs their food, fills in their check-ins, actually gets to the gym, and rewards them for that. Like she'll say, hey, you've gone to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. You're doing awesome this week. So blah.
So it's interesting, right? If I may. So you let's say I come to you for the very first time. You're going to go through some questionnaires of sorts and have a conversation with me to determine. Let's suppose then you say, well, I'm a level 1 fit, right? But my ultimate goal is to play competitive basketball. Yeah. So I haven't done that for many years. So how do you then sort of judge that? So how do you then, I know this is probably getting into a lot of details, which you don't need to delve into as such, but in that case, I may be a level 1, but although I do want to get to a level 3. So does that happen at times for you in this system?
Yep. I'm working with a client right now who, I hope he doesn't listen to this. When he came to me, he was like a level 1 in everything. He wants to become level 3 body composition, like bodybuilder on stage type thing. So with that, if a client has a low degree of competency, well, I'll just say that like they have a low degree of competency, I won't tell them that, and they want to have a high level goal. My process to them is to go, all right, cool. These are the behaviors that we have to get through to establish to get to a higher level goal. These are why these habits or behaviors are important, and they will facilitate the next level. Quite often I'll use the easiest analogy I use for people is squatting. I said a level 3, like it's really cool if you can go into the gym, whack 140 kilos in the bar, so 3 plates aside, and bang out some reps. It's pretty cool. You're strong. I'm like, go do it. No, I can't do that. I'll die. I'll break my back. Okay, cool. So why do you think you can go to all the other advanced stuff unless you've gone through the journey? And they're like, okay, cool. Now I get it. So what do I need to do? So what I do with each of these clients is I assign daily and weekly check-ins for the clients. The daily check-ins are quite quick. It's like tick off 3 or 5 things that they've done that they need to do to facilitate that. And the weekly check-in is an overview of the week and make sure that their adherence to each of those things is, once they've done that for a couple of weeks and they're nailing it, I'm just going to assume that they're good, because I think trusting your clients to succeed is a really powerful thing. Don't always expect them to fail. Expect them to win. And then from there, I go, all right, cool. You're ready for the next lot of behaviors and the next lot of training programs. And like, sweet. And we do that. So I do map it out over a period of time. I use your analogy of basketball. I mapped it out for myself. So in about 9 months' time, I went from playing casual basketball in a crappy league to playing semi-professional. I mapped out the whole journey for myself. Like, what behaviors does someone playing at a high level of basketball need? All right, cool. Where am I now? What am I lacking? These are the things I need to do. How long do I need to do that to actually get the result I want? So that's where we get and put our coach's hat. And while we're planning it in the background, and go, all right, cool. We know that physiological change takes approximately so and so. If this client does this for so long, they'll probably get this outcome. Let's plan the next one there. So we basically do like a low-level periodization in the background, but we also have a degree of flexibility in there based on outcomes.
Yeah, and I was going to say that it's important not to give them that outcome, but to sell the journey, and then obviously give some potential landmarks and say, look, because in the end, like, I could be a level 1, but I'm not earning it. If there's an expectation for me to earn it 8 weeks, then I'll be disappointed. But if you've laid it out in a different manner and said, look, we need to hit these milestones, that could be 3 months, that could be 4 months, yeah? And I love that approach, because it does provide that flex and flow, but it also has that sort of in the background, that periodization, or at least that scientific element, without being too rigid. But however, for your level 3, when you're there, hey man, they're hitting a periodized plan of sorts, yeah?
Oh, my level 3 clients, they hate me. They love me, hate me. Like, because I will do everything that's optimal. So like for some of them, like I do a lot of hypertrophy work on based on the lengthened mid-range and shortened range of the muscle, and spending time where the muscle gets the most stimulus. So like a lot of them, they want arms bigger. They end up doing preacher curls with 5-second pause in the length position. And they absolutely hate me because they can't brush their hair or their teeth for a week, but they despise me, or they say, Paul, you gave me a 3-minute set of walking lunges. It's pretty brutal, but it's all based around, all right, cool, what's the physiological outcome that you have? And I say, just trust it. See how the questions go. And I've worked with a ton of figure girls, and they all look at me and go, you're absolutely crazy. Why would I do a workout where I have to only breathe through my nose? And I was like, because it's going to increase the physiological upregulation of all these factors, blah, blah, blah. And then they do it, and 3 weeks later, they're like, all right, cool, I understand. And they stop questioning at that point. They just look forward to it.
This is game changing. I love it every minute of this conversation, especially. So you talked about motivation, giving some frameworks around questions and some hacks there. The reflective side, easy to use, implement. I think that's really crucial. Clients, but then looking at this level 1, 2, 3 system, I think it's a really gold. And it for me, being in the industry for a very long time, like yourself, it's always around going, look, being rigid and following like let's say a strength and conditioning coach and principles. Yeah, that works well for level 3. But what about the level 1, level 2 kind of clientele? And I think this is just terrific. And I hope that this has really resonated with the listeners. This has been terrific stuff. I'll have to get you back on, Paul, for some more stuff, mate. Any final thoughts or, that you want to share on this podcast?
One thing for the trainers, because a lot of people look at this or hear this for the first time and get overwhelmed because there's a ton of stuff you could potentially do. Okay? I didn't need the inverted commas there. There's a lot of stuff you could potentially do. I hate when people use that wrong and I just did it. Yeah, exactly. Think about, with your clients, they're going to have different needs and demands, right? At different levels. How can you systemize that and make it a little bit quicker? And here's just one for program design. Level 1 clients can use generic programs, like generic rep set schemes, because you don't know how they adapt to training yet because they've never done training. You can't tell if they're a hyper responder, a moderate, or a hypo. You can't tell. So generic programs are based around compound movements. It's good, solid training, works well for them, and then you can start to observe. But they don't need goal-orientated training. You just need to pick exercises based on what they can do, can't do, and need to do. Using FTI training systems, method of functional assessment is great. I've got a method, the FMS has a method. There's tons out there. Just pick one that you like and resonates. Then make sure they don't get hurt. But generic works well. For a level 2 client, goal-orientated programming, hypertrophy templates, fat loss templates, athletic performance templates, aerobic conditioning. Just change around a little bit of what's there for that individual client. And that way you end up creating products as well, which you can use in the future. And then finally, for level 3 clients, that's when you do your individualized, really detail-orientated training, and you can charge accordingly. So a level 1, 2 client should be on the base rate. A level 3 client, because it's very much more individualized, it takes more time in coaching, you can charge a higher rate for. So that helps a lot of trainers feel better about using this, because they can then start to build their business into a repeatable system where they don't have to spend 16 hours a week writing programs for people.
Yeah, totally. No, it's terrific. And I think just even conceptualizing, having that sort of framework in place, something similar, at least it should provide that option for coaches to alleviate that overwhelm, and I think that the key here is the systems that you've created in your very own business, somewhat can be replicated. So
all the time.
So folks, you want to reach out to Paul. He's one of the co-hosts. So, and he represents Fitwell Education, who's the major sponsor. So we're going to see and hear more and more from Paul, and he'll be interviewing some terrific guests. So thanks again, Paul. We know him as Mandream. Thank you, mate, and get you on once again down the track. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Purpose-Driven Movement. We pour our hearts and souls into creating valuable and engaging content for you. We would be so grateful if you could take a moment now to leave us a review. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more people, and it also helps others discover our podcast. Thank you again for your support, and we'll see you soon.